Recently, somebody I knew won an award. And it was a cool award. The award was basically a You're Awesome award. And I was there for the award being given. I got to hear the whole speech and everything. And it's kind of wild that the one person who was omitted in this individual's acceptance speech was himself. He thanked literally everybody else and deferred credit for everything and said things that really mostly were about expressing gratitude and about encouragement and exhortation to anybody who was hearing the speech. It was very, very well done. I was super impressed, and I was super proud of my friend. And likewise, here in the second half of Esther chapter 9, we're getting the same kind of treatment from Mordecai and Esther. This summary, this roundup, is all being written from the perspective of Mordecai and Esther, or maybe secondhand from the perspective of Mordecai and Esther via what could be interpreted, what could be gleaned from these two letters that they apparently sent out to Jews all around the Achaemenid, the Persian Empire. And all of these letters and the authority of it was all coming from the right-hand man of the king. Remember, Mordecai took Haman's place. So he's not just some guy trying to get people excited, like, come on, guys, let's celebrate a thing. Let's band together, and let's believe in our hearts, and let's make this a new deal. Come on, guys. Nah, it ain't like that at all. This is a highly authoritative position, but on top of that, this is somebody who is getting credited, or who a lot of people would look at and say, that dude and the queen just saved all of us from being dead. So rarely has there ever been such an opportunity for somebody to be riding such a high in terms of popular support and influence to cash it in and get what they want. And I think it's pretty compelling that what we find that Esther and Mordecai really want as we get into the home stretch here is they wanted the Jews not to be killed, and they want people to remember what happened and to have peace and unity among them, even as they celebrate on different days because of how the timing all worked out. And I mean, really, what more do they need? They already won Haman's estate, which was big enough to offer $250 million in modern money terms to the king early on in the book of Esther. That's been bequeathed to Esther, who immediately was like, I'm the queen of the Achaemenid Empire. It's the best empire they ever had in the history of all the empires. Like, bro, I'm fine. I'm just going to give it to Mordecai if that's cool. And the king, I mean, he's not really the type to object to much of anything. So Mordecai takes over Haman's massive estate. Esther's just fine. So when you already have everything, well, what else could you possibly want? Well, I mean, the stuff I just said, right? It's not hard to read between the lines and figure out that's what they really wanted to see happen. That being peace among the Jewish people around the empire who were going to celebrate this a little differently and on a little different calendar. It's weird. Doesn't seem like that would be a big thing, but that is the kind of thing that people can get worked up about and have fights about. So clearly, Esther and Mordecai, in their victory lap, if you will, after all of this worked out, they're writing a couple of letters, and one of those letters is, hey, let's not get after each other about celebrating on the wrong day. Here's why everybody celebrates when they do. It's because there was a second day of chaos and working this thing out. That was very euphemistic of me, I know. In the capital of Susa, so people in urban areas are going to celebrate on this day. People in the rural provinces are going to celebrate on this day. We're cool. So that's one thing that they wanted and that they sent out a letter for. And then the other thing is clearly, as I just mentioned, to remember. And it would seem that with basically half of the words in the little summary story that we get here from Esther, it gives me the impression that that letter that was sent out by Mordecai and Esther describing the events and what was being commemorated with this newly established holiday of Purim was also meant to be the kind of thing that maybe somebody who isn't Jewish might read over their shoulder and see the content of that letter, might peek in the windows from outside of the party and see the Jews doing the Purim thing and be reminded of what happened to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews, to whom half of the description of this story is dedicated when he had evil machinations and plans against the Jews, and then it all boomeranged around on him. So there are two letters that Esther and Mordecai kick out, and the second half of Esther chapter 9 is kind of difficult to discern where those two letters exactly happen, but clearly there are two, and clearly that is the subject matter they address. There should be this holiday, and it's about this particular story, and don't freak out about the fact that people honor and observe this thing on different days, which I think is pretty dang cool. And in a way, if we read between the lines here, I think we are seeing something of a character arc completion on the part of Esther and Mordecai. But let me just read it to you, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean. So let's start with the beginning of where the first of these two letters would go out. This is Esther 9, verse 20. Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Xerxes, near and far, to have them celebrate annually the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar, as at the time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and as the month when their sorrows were turned into joy, and their mourning into a day of celebration. He wrote them to observe the days as days of feasting and joy, and giving presents of food to one another and gifts to the poor. Side note, that is just, I mean, it's brutal. It's super mean of whoever wrote this to have the word poor and poor happening again and again in the same passage, especially while I'm sick, but I'm doing my best. So the Jews agreed to continue the celebration they had begun, doing what Mordecai had written to them. And now this is what we looked at yesterday. For Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and cast the poor, that is, the lot, for their ruin and destruction. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders that the evil scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Therefore, these days were called Purim, from the word poor. And I think we've already covered that and established that, but there it is. You cast the poor, Purim. It seems like it makes perfect sense. Great name for the holiday. Because of everything written in this letter, and because of what they had seen and what had happened to them, the Jews took it upon themselves to establish the custom that they and their descendants and all who join them should without fail observe these 2 days every year in the way prescribed and at the time appointed. These days should be remembered and observed in every generation by every family and in every province and in every city. And these days of Purim should never cease to be celebrated by the Jews, nor should the memory of them die out among their descendants. So Queen Esther, daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm this second letter concerning Purim. So there you go. You got two letters that they kick out there, and none of it seems to have anything to do with how awesome Mordecai and Esther are. It doesn't sound like it has anything to do with them getting stuff. It doesn't really sound like they take any credit for anything whatsoever. Ultimately, it looks like they're totally content to let the unseen hand of providence receive credit for how this works out. And I think that does demonstrate growth and change regarding their characters. And even if I'm reading into that too much, any reader of this book could agree that they end up in a place of humility and concern for others, and concern that this lesson, I believe, about the providence of God and how he will sustain his people, as well as the lesson of the importance of remembrance, that seems to be the thing that they really want to pass down through the generations, and that they really want people to remember. So just like my buddy who won a big award and decided not to use his time on the stage to take any kind of credit for himself whatsoever, looks like Mordecai and Esther choose the same approach and instead make their whole victory lap about the well-being of other people. I think that's pretty cool. Hey, last thing. You and I are busting our butts on this. We're putting a lot of work and effort and thought into making deep dives into the Bible a part of our daily rhythm. And every time we get done with one of these books, with one of these seasons, I got to feeling like we need something to commemorate that, to mark it, that's available to everybody, whether you support the program or not. And it ain't weird at all. You do not have to support this thing. I am so glad everybody is here and grateful to those who are able to kick in. There's no expectation ever at all. But everybody who is here, we need something to market. And so I hired my friend Bethany, who's done all the branding for everything that I do here. My buddy Destin, she's done the branding for him on Smarter Every Day, and our podcast, No Dumb Questions, and Ironwood Rhino, which I ran for a little while. And this, just everything. She's the artist behind that. She's so good. And she listens to this program as well. She knows the material. And so I commissioned her to make these beautiful little works of art in the form of sort of achievement unlocked stickers. Esther is done and ready to go, and it's beautiful. Thematically, it communicates so much about what this book is and what we're taking from it. And I think it's a cool milestone, a cool achievement marker that all of us physically, tangibly can have, that isn't going to absolutely annihilate the bank for me, and that I can just send automatically to everybody who supports the show in any way, and that I can make available to anybody who at any point works their way through the Book of Esther and wants to just go buy the sticker to be a part of their Achievement Unlocked, got this book in my hip pocket collection. I'm thinking about putting the stickers for me after we get done with the book in the little cardstock area in the first couple pages of my Bible, or maybe on the first page, the description page in my Bible. I don't know. It's going to go somewhere cool. They're not huge. They're maybe 2 inches by 3 inches. They look like a little book with the name of the book on the spine, and then 10-minute Bible hour on the bottom, and then the cool artwork in the middle. I'm going to make one that has a white outline, and that's the one that anybody can buy from the website. I'll get that set up soon so that you can pick that up and add it to your collection when you've got this book in your hip pocket and you've finished the season with me. And then there's going to be one that has a gold outline that I mail to literally anybody who is supporting the program on any platform, at any level, in any way, at the time that I actually mail the sticker, which in this case is going to go out with the Nehemiah Field Guide or Field Notes books when I get my hands on those. And then finally, there's a small handful of people who have gone ludicrously way above and beyond, and I am going to do a super special, mega limited edition, nobody else can get it, hologram sticker for you. And I mean, there's not like some kind of hard number on that or anything. There's just a few of you, and I think you know who you are. And I wanted to do something, anything, to acknowledge that and tip my hat and say thank you to you for that. Ultimately, all of you make this go, whether you support the program or not. It wouldn't happen if you weren't interested in thinking about this in normal language with a normal person together and cutting each other slack and showing each other grace and just thinking it through together honestly, even understanding that we might land in different places with what we do with it at any given time. It is a journey of working through wildly important, influential stuff together. And I think it's a big deal. And I think the stickers will be a cool way, even if not the hugest thing ever, to just commemorate that, because it matters. And every one of these books that we do together is a huge step in terms of the journey of faith and life and growth and belief, but also it's a moment in your history, and you only get so many of those, and I think it's cool. And even if you don't think of life that way, I do. And so I thought the sticker thing would be really cool. Again, the Esther stickers will be available for sale with the white outline sometime soon on the website. And the gold outline ones, we'll just send those out to everybody who's supporting here as soon as I get the shipment in on those Nehemiah Field Notes books. They'll go out together. All right, y'all are awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thanks again for laboring with me as I'm under the weather and my voice is even more grating than usual. Y'all are patient. All right, I'm Matt. This is a 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.